With the best team in the West in town, let's power rank the Western Conference. What are your biggest concerns moving forward with the Stars? And how does Dallas pick up a victory tonight over those pesky Golden Knights? Let's talk about it next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105.3 The Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe, never miss an episode. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I know it's tomorrow, but just in case I do not have an episode out on Thursday, want to make sure I say that to all you everydayers out there on Locked On Stars. I want to thank you so much for all your feedback and, of course, engagement over the past few weeks. The Stars have been rolling, and they are first place in the Central Division, coming off a big 6-3 win over the New York Rangers. That was a fun one at the AAC. Get to cap off a homestand. Well, not cap off, a few more left, but get to play one of the best teams in all of the Western Conference. They are the best team in the Vegas Golden Knights tonight. We'll touch on that a little bit later on. Also, what are your biggest concerns moving forward with the Dallas Stars? But first, I want to power rank the Western Conference. This is a great time to do it. American Thanksgiving is sort of the benchmark for a lot of these teams and who's going to be in the playoffs, who is not. And I made my predictions, of course, at the beginning of the year. Keeping those in mind, I want to touch on where I see each team fitting in and what slot so far this season, about 2 months into this thing. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Alrighty, we will start with the Western Conference, of course. And more importantly, let's go with the Central Division, and then I'll kind of intertwine on how it relates to the West in general. And all the Locked On NHL hosts do power rankings every week, and sometimes we publish those on where the rankings are. So I figured I would share some of mine. Of course, please feel free to drop your rankings down below as well. I'm sure many of you are catching other games besides just the Stars, as I have as well. So here we go. In the Central Division, I got the Dallas Stars number one. They're hitting their stride here. They're getting a little bit of everything. They're much deeper than they were a year ago. Of course, the addition of Matt Duchene has helped tremendously. He's off to a phenomenal start. Joe Pavelski continues to produce. Sagan is having a renaissance, so to speak. They're good enough on defense. I think they need to get better. That's one of my big concerns, which I'll touch on later on. But with the great goaltending they're getting from Jake Oettinger plus Wedgwood, you have a solid number two. They're very deep now. They got four lines, I feel like, that can create offense and be effective every single night, which was not always the case in seasons past. I think Pete DeBoer has been pushing all the right buttons, and they're winning games. And I still don't think they've played their best hockey too, which is almost the exciting part with it. 12-4-1 record and 25 points. Then I have Colorado. No surprise there. Colorado still very good. I mean, they have all the makings to be a Stanley Cup contender. Probably a bit worried about their goaltending depth with Francouz being out for the year. Georgiev is good. Is he ready to really take that step? But they have a world-class defenseman and Cale Makar, one of the best in the business. McKinnon is a top 3 player in the game. Rantanen is deadly as ever. Unfortunately, they don't have Landeskog, but even with that, they have really good depth too. And they have a much better D-core than Dallas too. And that's what really helps them. And I think a lot of people may give them the edge because their D-core is just better. I mean, Gerard, Makar, Johnson, Tace are all very good. I think they just have more able bodies and they're a lot more mobile than the Stars are. And this is where I feel like there's a big drop-off. The Central's just kind of bleh this year, it feels like. And I kind of expected that moving forward. A lot of us concurred that it was probably going to be Minnesota, Dallas, in Colorado in your top 3. That hasn't really been shaped up. So far, throughout what I've seen this season, I would give Winnipeg 3. Hellenbuck's phenomenal. Kyle Connor is one of the best in the biz goal scoring right now. They don't have a whole lot of other pieces, I would say. But they're interesting. And if they get great goaltending, which they usually do, is he going to be able to hold up throughout an entire season? Because Hellenbuck plays more than almost anybody, especially in the past few years. But they're 6-3-1 at home. They got a +9 goal differential. I like Winnipeg. And then from here, it's a real toss-up. I really like Arizona. I'm just not ready to put them there yet. They're young. I thought they would be a surprise team coming into the year. We'll see if they can continue that moving forward. I like St. Louis, and then I like Minnesota. And I know Minnesota hasn't played good. St. Louis, I think, is just still a veteran, good club. They've been playing a little bit up and down recently, but off to a very good start. I mean, they're 6-2 at home. They've been really, really bad on the road, but Bennington has given them chances to win on most nights. I know he's kind of engaged now in some trade talks with maybe not engaged he himself, but there's been floats around like Edmonton going out to get him and things like that. But I still like their club, and they have some young guys that they're still waiting to hit with other guys. But so far they've played really good. And then I put Minnesota next because I still don't think Arizona's there. Minnesota, for me, is a team that's going to figure it out eventually. They're kind of stuck and handcuffed in a lot of ways with their cap situation, but Kirill Kaprizov has been just atrocious. Boldy hasn't been that great. Zuccarello's been okay. They just haven't quite gotten their big boys to be their big boys yet, and you have to think that's going to come at some point. Gustafsson, their netminder, has been really bad. Unfortunately, they have a -16 goal differential, which is really bad. And I feel somewhat like a clown saying this, but I find it hard to believe that they're going to continue to be a bottom dweller. I know they're handcuffed in some situations, but I feel like they just have too many pieces, and their mentality and their type of play they're going to get out of it eventually. It hasn't been pretty, but they went over to Sweden. They got a couple points in those matchups. Dean Evanson, I think, has to be on the hot seat and Bill Guerin. But that's kind of his guy that he hired. So it's really, really interesting. And then I got Nashville and Chicago, and that's pretty much self-explanatory. But the Stars lead the way for me. And they've played the majority of these teams, and the Stars are a legit Stanley Cup contender, no doubt about it. Their offense has been really, really fun to watch, about 3.5 goals per game now, which is a smidge lower than it was last season. Of course, we'll see how that plays over a full 82. But the addition Duchene alone has made this team that much better. They just took a step up in that realm. And now you're going to start thinking at this point in the season, a few months down the line, the Stars have to holster the back end. No doubt about it. The Stars are going to be looking for the best defenseman wherever that is. A couple of guys come to mind, Calgary especially, due to the fact that they've been just this year too. Sorry for the sound effects. But Zadorov is somebody that I think would be very intriguing. I know a lot of people are on the Tanev situation. Hannafin's another guy that, of course, signed with Calgary. That looks to be going a little bit haywire. Zadorov seemed to express concerns that he already wanted to get out. So there's a bunch of guys there that you can float around. And I think the Stars are going to have to bolster the back end if they want to be a little bit more legit, I guess you could say. They're a legit Stanley Cup contender, but really solidify themselves and I think make themselves almost a favorite. I know in a lot of projections they are a favorite, but I don't think they match up with Vegas well in a 7-game series. Colorado's going to give them fits. Teams like that. Other than that, I feel like they fail pretty well. Colorado for me is a toss-up. I still don't think they match up well with Vegas in 7 games. If both teams are fully healthy, I really don't. I think Vegas is just so deep, and we'll touch on that anyways later on. And this is where I kind of get into my biggest concerns moving forward, and that's what we're going to get into. What are your biggest concerns for the Dallas Stars moving forward. Not a lot to be nitpicky about, but let's be a little bit nitpicky here and dive in a little bit more on what the Stars need moving forward. And we'll do that in just a moment. But today's episode on Locked On Stars is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. The Dallas Stars could hoist the Stanley Cup. Jason Robertson could score 50 goals, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And the great thing about Sleeper as well, you don't just have to play daily fantasy hockey. You can play college football, daily fantasy football. You got the NBA that's in full swing now. So many different opportunities to win money. And guys, it's so easy, especially when you're playing daily fantasy NHL. All you got to do is pick the studs on the Stars. You can play every night, kick your feet up, watch some Stars hockey, and pick more or less on Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus or minus in the given game. And you can win 100 times bet on your Sleeper. You need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Stars fans. You can win 100 times you're playing money on daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention, and you can nail your picks to win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and location availability. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is also brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard me talk about FanDuel for so long here on Locked On Stars, and there's no better time to score early this season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I know we've been locked on the Texas Rangers. Excuse me, not the Texas Rangers. We've been locked on them too. But the Dallas Cowboys, of course, in their season, a great win against the Carolina Panthers. They're beating up on all the terrible teams. And that's why you should, if they're going to beat up a terrible team, throw some money on the Cowboys so you can win some money as well while you enjoy a Cowboys victory. So go ahead, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Go ahead and get that FanDuel app. It's so easy to use and start winning some money, Stars fans. FanDuel, a official partner of the NFL. Okay, let's touch on some of the biggest concerns for the Dallas Stars moving forward. I have a few for you here that you can chew on. Love to know your feedback, observations. What do you think the biggest concerns are moving forward for the Dallas Stars? I also want to mention that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So I start with this on some of my concerns. Jason Robertson is one of them. And this isn't a fully critical point. I'll want to preface that. But I wonder if this is just going to be one of those years for Robertson. It's just going to be a bit slow scoring in the terms of goal scoring. It's just going to be a slow year. And look, he still has 15 points in 17 games. It almost seems wild that this is a concern, but the Stars are better when he is good and when he is scoring a lot. There is no doubt about that. That top line is so dangerous when Robertson is going, especially on the power play. He had 41 points last year on the man advantage. He just seems to not be getting to his spots. And maybe that's just the way opponents are defending him. And I'm not saying I'm overly concerned about it, but it is something that I wish there would be a bit of an uptick. he's not as noticeable, I would say, in terms of his scoring. Usually it's like, man, 21 had a game tonight. He was all over the place. He's getting those bounces. He's in the right areas. And that's why my concern, he's not flashing to me as much. And the effectiveness is not quite there. Again, I understand he's scoring well. 15 points in 17 games is nothing to scoff at so far, but just 5 goals so far on the season. And he got off to a slow scoring season last year when he went and lit it up. And I'm sure there's going to be a stretch where he finds it and everything he throws towards the cage is going to find twine. That's the nature of this. But he's just not popping off, and it seems like he's not getting those types of chances that we're used to seeing. And if his goal scoring's down, it does hamper the offense a bit more. He's not a driver of a line, so to speak. He has to rely a bit more on others. He still has that ability to score himself. We just haven't quite seen that a few times where, he's in the offensive zone and he kind of is just maneuvering his way through defense, and then boom, it's in the back of the net. Haven't quite seen a ton of those goals yet from Robertson. Would love to get him going a bit more. The second one, and probably the most important one, and this is my statement, the defense is not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. They're not deep enough. They're not mobile enough. It has to get better. And that's why I said earlier, you have to upgrade the defense. I'm sure Jim Neal is going to do that. He's shown in the past, if they have a chance to win, man, they're going to make a move at the deadline. He's going to do whatever they can to make this team better. And I'm sure they will do that. But the defense just is not quite good enough. That's one of my reasons why I don't think they match up well with a team like Vegas or even Colorado. They just do not have enough depth in that position. They got exposed last spring in that too, with Lindell and Hakanpää as a pair that had a really, really bad series. Of course, they're missing Harley right now, but when Harley's back, I still don't think it's good enough. They're just not as mobile, and I don't think they scare or provide any level of fear for any other opponents. I think it's sort of the weakness on the team. And, Miro's carrying a lot of that load. Suter's been playing really well. Hakanpää and Lindell have been just kind of there. I don't think we're going to see them have a resurgence in their play. Harley's been great. Lundqvist has been fine too. I don't know if Lundqvist is a top 4 defenseman in the NHL. I think he plays very valuable minutes and he provides a different dynamic on the back end. I don't think he's a top 4 defenseman in the NHL yet, at least not on the Dallas Stars. So we'll see where that all kind of floats down the way. But that is kind of my overarching statement. I just don't think the defense is good enough right now. They're going to have to do some work, and that's no surprise too. We've mentioned that. It's a big talk right now if they want to really solidify themselves as a great cup contender, because they already are, which is a great sign. There just needs to be a few more, I guess, tweaks and oil the hinges, and they'll be ready to go. The other one, of course, is a bit more of a blanket statement, but just staying healthy. I think that matters so much. You got to be healthy at the right time, and you have to be playing your best hockey at the right time. We saw what happened when Wedgwood went down. That forced Otter to play a lot. He was injured going into the playoffs, and it got worse and worse. And then Oettinger kind of, just didn't live up to expectations down the stretch in that playoff run. He was still fine, but having him, healthy and fresh will be great. The Stars are an older team, of course, with veterans, Pavelski, Ben, Sagan, all those guys. And Sagan, of course, has had some injury history. If they can stay healthy up front, they're going to be just fine. Rope Hintz has missed time almost every season for at least an extended period. Hasn't happened that much, or hasn't happened yet this year, knock on wood. But if they stay healthy, they're going to be just fine too. It has to be another concern. Look at Vegas a few years ago. It's one of the reasons DeBoer got fired from there. They lost so many man games, and some of that is out of your control. I completely understand that. But a lot of things will change if the Stars are not healthy down the stretch as well. So those are some of my biggest concerns. Please let me know in the comments what your biggest concerns are with the Stars moving forward. But at the end of the day, right now, the Stars are first place in the Central Division. Let me remind you of that. 25 points, 12 wins, 4 losses, and the 1 OT loss, which of course came against, well, it did not come against the Vegas. It was a shootout loss, but you get it. It was past 60 minutes. How do the Stars take down the best team in the Western Conference? We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by BetterHelp. I've talked to you about BetterHelp before. You guys ever wake up sometimes and you don't know what's going on? You have some cloudy memory. You're struggling. That's this time of year, especially up north. It's gloomy. It's cloudy. You don't get that sunshine, and it can be a lot. And it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all the stress and change. Something to look forward to make you feel grounded and give you the tools to manage everything you got going on. You can benefit from therapy. If you've been thinking about starting it, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can also switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's about finding someone you connect with, and you have the opportunity to do that with BetterHelp. If you don't like them, you can move on and find your perfect connection, because that's what it's all about. So find your right spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnhl today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnhl. Here we go. Big one tonight for the Dallas Stars. A lot of good opponents here in this week for the Stars, and the Vegas Golden Knights come to town. These two teams met early on this season, and the Stars fell in a shootout. A really, really good game. They were up late in the third, and they give up a tying goal, and Vegas ended up winning in the skills competition. But of course, Vegas has had no Stanley Cup hangover. That is for sure. They have been phenomenal so far this season. 28 points, 13-4-2 in their first 19 games. Vancouver's right behind them as well. They've had a phenomenal season. But Vegas does it in a combination of what they did last year, man. High level, elite, top talent. Jack Eichel and Marchessault and Stevenson, but their depth is really what's showing through right now. They're just getting great contributions from everybody. Shea Theodore's having a great year on the back end with 14 assists, 4 goals from him. His expected goals for is 17.6, highest on the team. William Karlsson's having a phenomenal year too. 20 points so far. Eichel's been great. Pietrangelo on the back end. Their fourth line is something. It's the best fourth line in all of hockey. And it's just depth. The Stars have to match that fourth line, which I thought they did really, really good in that first game. They actually won that battle. Craig Smith scored a goal. But Amadio and Korzak and Waugh are just some of those depth forwards, along with Kolesar, that just put so much pressure on your defense. They spend a lot of time in the offensive zone. They're big. They're physical. They're strong. They really wear out a defense, and the Stars will have to somehow quell that forecheck. They got to move the puck quickly, be clean on their breakouts, and get pucks in. The old cliches: you cannot turn the puck over and neutral ice against Vegas, one of the best teams off the rush in all of the National Hockey League. So very, very tough one. They got a great goaltending too. Their goaltending has just been unreal, man. And it's just not slowed down. Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill. I mean, what else is there to say about those two guys? Just here's a clip or a little peek into their numbers. 0.929 save percentage, 2.07 goals against average. 0.920 save percentage, 2.48 goals against average. Yeah, that's pretty good for Logan Thompson and Adin Hill. So no Stanley Cup hangover for them. They have to be a Stanley Cup favorite as well. They've been healthy and they're just playing really, really good hockey. They haven't played a ton of great competition, to be completely honest. I think their schedule's much harder going forward, but that doesn't matter. They're one of the best teams. The strength of schedule's not going to matter for them. So just another good team. It's a great test, right? These are benchmark games for Dallas. As the Stars, Pete DeBoer touched on, they're continuing to learn about themselves. They did a great job of limiting their mistakes against New York yesterday, or a few days ago, excuse me. Now a great opportunity to play a really, really high caliber team in Vegas. They got a great power play as well. They've been kind of clipping that pretty good. 15 power plays so far this year, 23%, scoring 3.37 goals per game. There's not a lot of numbers that just completely jump off the page at you, but they're just all good, right? And that's what they were kind of last year. They were a high seed, of course. They were number 1 seed, but it didn't feel like everybody gave them the credit that they maybe deserved, just because they didn't have all that hype and hoopla around them, it felt like. And of course, they got the job done last year. So a great test. I'm excited for this one. Oettinger will be in the pipes, I'm for sure. Of course, we'll hear about that later, and excited about that one tonight. Okay. For the rest of the week moving forward, happy Thanksgiving. I'm hoping, I know I touched on this yesterday, I'm hoping to get an episode out maybe tomorrow breaking down the Vegas game, or Friday getting ready for Calgary. Don't know what the situation's going to be. My schedule's so weird. I have a game tonight that I'm covering, and I'll be on the road. I won't get back till really late, and then I'm traveling a bit for Thanksgiving, so it's just chaos. I'll see if I'm able to do an episode because I want to. I'm going to watch the game anyways on my way home on a bus ride, so we'll see how that all plays out. But anyways, thank you to all you everydayers out there, seriously, on Locked On Stars. I love you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. I've had so much fun doing this so far, and excited for a little bit of a few days. If I'm not here the next 2 days, no worries. I'll be back next Monday, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Please follow me on the Twitter thing, Joey the Jet 19. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, free and available wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. If you want to see my face, I'm rocking a stash that's not very good for No Shave November, so you can make fun of me in the comments for that as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Let's go Stars. Let's get a big win tonight, and we'll be flying high and flying, whatever you want to say, into the Thanksgiving break. For now, enjoy the rest of your day, and so long, Stars fans.